In September of 2022, we did a Viking Rhine River Cruise. Since we did a back-to-back cruise both up and down the Rhine, we stopped in Strasbourg twice, but we could only go up the tower once, and it downpoured. Under the Reformation in 1521, the cathedral became a Protestant church until after the city went back to France in 1681. Then it was converted back to a Catholic church. Between 1870 and 1945, Strasbourg Cathedral suffered heavily during 3 wars, but remained standing. During the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, projectiles set fire to the roofs of the nave and the choir stalls. During World War I, the cathedral continued to operate relatively normal, but most of the bells were removed. The cathedral's interior contains a rich collection of stained glass windows, more than 4,600 panels, most of which date from the 12th, 13th, and 14th century. Some of the oldest show various emperors and princes of the Holy Roman Empire. During the Second World War, during the annexation of Strasbourg into the Third Reich, Hitler was considering turning the church into a national monument, which would have involved dismantling those huge stained glass windows for safekeeping. The priceless windows disappeared until 1945, when the Americans found them tucked away in a salt mine in Germany. Anyone who saw the movie Monuments Men will have an idea of what happened there. This astronomical clock is actually the 3rd clock on this spot and dates from the time of the first French possession of the city, 1681 to 1870. The first clock had been built in the 14th century, the second in the 16th century, when Strasbourg became a free imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire, and then the current 3rd clock dates from 1843. It's a perpetual calendar and planetary dial, a display of the real position of the sun and the moon and solar and lunar eclipses. But the main attraction is the procession of the 18-inch high figures of Christ and the Apostles, which occurs every day at the solar noon. The name of its original maker is not known, only the names of those who had worked on it afterwards. This is the entryway to the tower. It's outside, the side entrance. Now, pictures from here are in focus and out of focus. Some are wet, some got drops on them, and light and dark, and that's because it was raining. Part of this walk is inside, parts of it's outside, parts of it is just through little slits of openings in the walls. However, the first 50 steps of the 332 steps weren't too bad. It was from then on. I was huffing and puffing like the big bad wolf trying to blow the little piggies' houses down. At that point, I wasn't walking up the steps. I was hand over hand pulling myself up, one step at a time, grabbing onto the thick rope railings for dear life, hoping not to have a heart attack. But by that time, you're committed, and there's no way to go but up. Fortunately, I wasn't the only one from the teacher-children generation on this stairway, and there were others behind me even slower up these really narrow walkways. On top of that, I was carrying 3 cameras as well as my phone, trying to breathe, watch my step, take a shot every now and then. And that's why some of these photos look the way they do. My much smarter significant other had her iPhone camera. Finally, you get to a landing that you think, oh, this is where we're going, and you think you've already hit those 300 steps. Turns out to only be a pit stop where the designers of the tower put there just to screw with future, less active generations. But eventually, you do get to an enclosed open area with information about the tower, its construction, and the timepieces within it. There are pictures of former residents of the city, names all over the place on the walls that you can't read because you're still too busy trying to catch your breath. And then just all the other people that are around you. Everybody wants to see the same things at the same time. There is an animation video of how they built the cathedral and managed to get all the materials up here. It's a lot longer than this. Eventually, you do get to this outside landing, and as I said, and you can see, it was pouring. But after all that effort, I was going to go out there even if it was a hurricane. The views are indeed amazing. However, it was here at 466 feet that I knew I wasn't going to make it up the 516 feet tower in Cologne, even though Viking people get to ride the construction scaffolding elevator. It had nothing to do with the stairs. I just felt this was as high as I wanted to be without being on drugs. Once up there and you felt rested and you're enjoying the view, even though it's a bit cold and a lot wet, there's just no way that you cannot enjoy this view. And the thoughts is that the walk down will be easier because you're not fighting gravity, and it should be helping you. Well, guess what? That theory is only on paper, because tower stairs are not like the even stairs that we Americans are used to. They start on the left side at about 2 inches wide, then become the regulation size step on the right. But the lighting is not very good. So my progressive bifocal line happened to just hit the steps at exactly the spot where the edge of the step was. So I'm bobbing my head back to get the light to show on the step, and then lifting my head to see the edge of the step so I don't miss it and end up tumbling my way down. So for about 300 steps, I'm bobbing my head back and forth like a dashboard bobblehead toy. The people behind me must have thought I was having a stroke. But you know what? I wouldn't have changed it for anything. I'm glad I did it. It was an amazing experience, and I can now say I climbed the Strasbourg Cathedral Tower. But it won't happen again. I'll wait at the bakery.